This is Echoes, a Ukrant podcast. In this podcast, Christien Boomsma, Rob van der Wal, and me, Tom Wilcox, will introduce you to remarkable people and extraordinary events in 400 years of UG history, ranging from persecuted Scottish students fleeing to 17th century Groningen to a Russian spy seducing a UG physicist. This is Goodbye, My Love, Farewell, about 23-year-old medical student Reint Dijkema, who was executed by the German occupying forces in 1944. Please be advised, this episode mentions violence and torture. It's a summer's day in 1944. A church minister is pushed into a room at the Stolperstein in Groningen, headquarters for the German Sicherheitsdienst. It's where the Gestapo tortures people. The minister sees a small table with 2 army officers and 1 Grüne, an officer with the German Ordnungspolizei. There are other men in the room, some of them facing the wall. Others are sitting or lying down on the floor. One man, practically a boy, is bound by his hands and feet. There's a splint on one arm. His clothes are dishevelled and covered in blood. He's not wearing any shoes. His face is bruised and swollen. Although his eyes are closed, he isn't sleeping. Occasionally, he tries to fix his clothes or his dark hair, annoying the guard on duty. "Leave it alone, kid. It doesn't matter what you look like. They're going to shoot you anyway." But the young man refuses to let it get to him. "I know that, but as long as I'm alive, I might as well look presentable." The guard turns to one of the other prisoners. "This guy," he says, "is responsible for all those murders. He killed Elsinga and the watchman here." The minister suddenly realizes who the young man is. 23-year-old medical student Reint Dijkema. He is one of the leaders of the Groningen resistance movement. And this minister, by the name of Schuurmans, is also involved in the resistance. He was arrested when he went to drop off his contribution to illegal newspaper Trouw. But the house he went to had been occupied by the SD. The minister was taken away to the dreaded Scholtenhuis, which was located exactly where Vindicat's clubhouse stands today. He spent 10 days in arrest there. 10 days in the same room with Reint and 2 of his friends from the resistance. He isn't interrogated himself, but he witnesses Reint and his friends getting tortured. The German soldiers hit him, either with their bare hands or with a leather belt. He tries to shield himself with his hands, but isn't very successful, since he's bound and his arm is broken. But Reint never makes a sound. When he's made to stand facing the wall after another beating, he looks at Schuurmans with a mocking smile. Years later, the minister recalls how impressed he was. "I thought, what a guy. It's a good thing these brutes can't see his face." 4 years earlier, Reint Dijkema had been an ordinary boy. He'd just started studying medicine, like many other 18-year-old boys. He'd moved into a student room in the city and joined Vera, a Protestant Christian student association at the time. He had a girlfriend, Ineke, in Siddeburen. They were engaged and planning to get married. But on May 10th, 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands. The country capitulated within 5 days, and the royal family fled to Great Britain. Everything changed. The things Reint witnessed went against everything he stood for. He was deeply religious, and the increasing repression infuriated him. He wasn't afraid to show it either. When Jews were made to wear the Star of David, he and his brother Albertus went into town wearing stars made of curtain fabric. The Germans were not amused. The pair was taken to a prison camp for re-education. But this only served to anger Reint even more. Slowly but surely, he and his brothers became more involved in the resistance movement. The attic of Reint's parental home, at the Jozef Israelsstraat 16A was slowly filling up with illegally acquired things. Stolen German uniforms, chloroform, revolvers, and hand grenades. The resistance robbed distribution centres to steal food stamps for people who were in hiding. They raided government offices in Hoge Zand to destroy records. It sounds almost like a movie. Dangerous, of course, but exciting too. Until Reint did something that ended with a bounty of 10,000 guilders being put on his head, 85,000 euros in today's money. The killing of NSB member Jan Annes Elsinga, head of the Special Criminal Jurisdiction in Groningen, on New Year's Eve 1943. Reint wasn't proud of what he'd done. He had wanted to become a doctor and save lives, but now he'd taken one. It went against everything he believed in. After all, the Bible said, "Thou shalt not kill." But he'd done it anyway. The war had forced him to make an impossible choice. What was worse, letting a dogged Jew hunter like Jan Annes Elsinga, someone who'd arrested countless resistance members and people in hiding, sending them to their deaths, get away? Or killing a single person? The resistance had decided that Elsinga had to die. Reint and his compatriots were given the assignment. It was a huge deal for Reint. He had to send a person to damnation without giving him the opportunity to convert, his brother Piet said later. It's clear from the many failed assassination attempts on the police officer that Reint was having trouble with the job. First, he sent threatening letters to Elsinga, but this had no effect. Next, Reint and his brother planned to break into Elsinga's house and kill him there. They abandoned the plan because Elsinga's wife was gravely ill, and they didn't want to cause a consternation. Their next plan sounds almost comical. The brothers wanted to give Elsinga a lethal injection when he was attending church on Christmas Day. They attended the service twice, armed with revolvers and a syringe. Elsinga never showed up. They tried a third time on December 29th. Reint and Piet followed Elsinga as he was biking to the Scholtenhuis. But Reint refused to shoot him in the back. On December 30th too, Reint changed his mind at the last moment. But then December 31st rolled around. The brothers were once again following Elsinga as he biked across the Pijzerweg. They sped up as Elsinga turned onto the Paterswoldseweg in the direction of the Eendrachtsbrug. There, Reint pulled his weapon and pulled the trigger. 3 times. Elsinga fell down and tried to get back up, but before Piet could reach for his own revolver to finish the job, he collapsed. Bystanders never even realized what was going on. They thought someone had blown a tire, an eyewitness said later. Reint and Piet got out of there as fast as they could. But the consequences of their actions were immense. That same night, the Germans grabbed 6 people from their homes and shot them dead in the street. 36 others were captured and taken to Kamp Vught. A bounty was put on Reint's head. The newspapers called the murder a cowardly assassination. When Reint was visiting his fiancée Ina's neighbours in Siddeburen, he was told the resistance had gone too far. But no one knew that the killer was right there in the room with them. Reint was struggling. He even quit the resistance entirely for 2 months, although he went back in the end. And now, less than 6 months after the killing, it was curtains for Reint. The Germans had caught him, and he knew there was only one way this would end. He was going to die. A few days earlier, a resistance fighter had been captured in Slochteren, putting the entire network in danger. Reint had immediately left for Groningen to move the weapons from his parents' house. While he still managed that, he ran into an old classmate when he was biking through the Muurstraat, Jaap van der Sluis. Unfortunately, Jaap was an NSB member and a police officer, and he'd been tasked with finding Reint. Imagine the scene. Reint is running through the Butjesstraat, taking the Pausgang to cross to the Harderwikkerstraat. There, he hides in a basement, shaking, his heart pounding. A passerby spots him and rats him out. He gets arrested again in the Boteringenstraat, but he gets away once more and starts running. He's shot in the arm, the bone breaking. Bleeding, he is taken to the Scholtenhuis at the Grote Markt. Even when they bind his hands and feet, he keeps struggling. A careless guard has left a gun on the table, right in front of Reint. He falls forward, manages to grab the gun, turns to the side and fires. The guard falls. The other soldiers descend on him, kicking and hitting him with the butts of their guns. He was probably hoping they would shoot him right then and there. He knew exactly what was waiting for him, the torture he'd endure. The names of his friends he would give up. And in the end, they would still kill him. That was how Schuurmans met him that day at the Scholtenhuis. A young man who knows he's going to die, but is trying to keep his head up in spite of everything. Schuurmans, Reint and his friends are held in that room for 10 days. He watches as Reint gets tortured and beaten over and over again. How he stays defiant in the face of it all. How he dreams of escaping even though he knows it's impossible. The interrogations last until June 18th, 1944. When Reint was finally transferred to Kamp Vught, it was on a stretcher. His feet had been beaten so severely that he was unable to walk. In a final letter to his family, he asks for forgiveness for giving up information. "I wish things were different, but they beat it out of me," he says. "They already had all the names I gave them." Then there's a final note in the margins. "They're no longer torturing me. The food is good, and there's enough. I'm not losing weight. I'm not bored." And, "Ineke, no matter how hard it is, you have to live on after my death. God will make everything right. Goodbye, my love. Farewell." Reint was killed by firing squad on August 22nd, 1944. A Stolperstein has been placed in front of Jozef Israelsstraat 16A, with Reint Dijkema's name on it. His name has also been included on the memorial plaque inside the Academy building in Groningen. The show notes include more literature on Dijkema. This episode was researched and written by Christien Boomsma. Sound and technique by Rob van der Wal. Voice, Tom Wilcox.